So let me tell you my story.
Hi, I'm Lani. I was an anesthesiologist, but I migrated to the US in 2009 and worked as a dialysis nurse. I was shocked to see my coworkers eat chips, chicken nuggets, and pizza for lunch. Soon I learned to embrace the SAD diet, or the standard American diet. I'd often miss breakfast, having to leave the house at 5:30 a.m. I'd drive through McDonald's between dialysis cases and order the McChicken and super sweet iced tea for brunch. I'd come home for dinner at around 10 p.m. and eat the burger helper that my husband would cook. My weight and BMI remained normal at 124 pounds and 21.6. But during my annual checkup, I was shocked to see my lipid profile showing a high LDL. My HDL was low. My blood pressure was 125 over 85. The health team handed me a paper showing I had pre-hypertension and hyperlipidemia. I shrugged off the results. My weight is within the normal range anyway.
Obviously, there are factors that work against us: lack of time, lack of knowledge, lack of skills, and low motivation. So let's get back to our story.
After 2 years and a back injury, I quit my toxic job and moved to a 9 to 5 work in research, where I now have the time to cook for my family and pack lunch. I still wake up at 5 a.m. and now have the time to exercise on the indoor bike to help manage my back pain. My rehab doctor told me to lessen my intake of processed food, dairy, and red meat. He said it might help, but did not explain why. So I did not take it too seriously. I thought I ate pretty healthy. I'd have a home-baked white bread toast and coffee with cream and sugar for breakfast. My lunch and snack consisted of a banana, apple, orange, and a bag of chips. I'd go home and cook the usual Filipino dishes: adobo, tinola, nilagang baka, pinakbet, and the like, served with white rice. Often, it was a heavy dinner. During the hospital annual blood exams, my lipid profile turned normal, but the following year, my triglycerides were high, and then the year after, it was my LDL again. My blood pressure was pre-hypertensive at 121 over 84, based on the European standard anyway, but following the American guidelines, it remained as hypertension stage 1. They recommended that I follow the Mediterranean diet. I had a vague idea of what it was. I had done the South Beach diet in the past and lost the 5 pounds I gained from pregnancy. It should be the same, right? Eat whole grains, lots of fruits and vegetables, lean meat, low-fat dairy, low salt, and avoid sweets. I always believed my diet was pretty much like that. I forgot that I'd often eat Krispy Kreme donuts and Starbucks caramel macchiato for snacks or breakfast. During one of the lunch and learn sessions, a dietitian explained how to read nutrition labels. 5% was low and 20% was high. So look for low fat, low sugar, low salt, and choose foods high in fiber, high in protein, high in vitamins and minerals. I quit drinking fruit juice and ate whole fruits instead. I switched to brown rice, and this lessened my rice intake in the evening. My weight dropped to 120 pounds.
I'm most likely an example of your typical healthcare worker. I have some nutrition knowledge, can count calories, but sometimes miss the details. I did not bother to trace the root cause of my high triglyceride and LDL cholesterol. Most healthcare professionals do not bother to explain the details to me because they assume I already know this stuff. Fast forward to 2018, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and felt I was in a constant state of inflammation, waking up with burning shoulders, muscular aches, and joint pains. My fasting blood sugar was at 107 grams per DL. I learned this was a pre-diabetes level. I may look 30, I wish, but I felt like 80. I lacked focus and my memory was faltering. I did some research and read about gut health and the microbiome. I learned that there are trillions of bacteria in the gut. Overeating processed foods, stress, antibiotic intake, and a diet rich in refined food and low fiber can lead to dysbiosis. They didn't teach this in medical school 2 decades ago. At around this time, these existential questions hounded me. What do I want to be when I grow old? If I don't do anything, how will I look 30 or 50 years from now? Did I want to end up with a cane? I look at my family history. My father underwent a triple heart bypass at age 50, had an angioplasty and stenting a couple of years later, and another, and he had a stroke years after. He was a doctor. My brother also had angioplasty at 52. My mom developed diabetes, and she was a nurse. Was genetics to blame, or did we share common eating habits that predisposed us to these conditions? I wanted to change my health trajectory. I saw this cover from the Money magazine showing two centenarians doing yoga and running the marathon. Clearly, health is wealth. And my vision changed. That's when I discovered a new path to health, culinary medicine. The name alone piqued my interest. I love to cook and in fact spent most of my waking hours in the kitchen. Did they say that was a clue to your purpose in life when you have the passion and potential for something that meets a perceived need and has the possibility of bringing profit to your body, mind, and spirit, as evidenced by your productivity in that particular area? So I enrolled in the Culinary Medicine Specialist course in 2019. What is culinary medicine? Dr. John LaPuma, author of the New York Times best-selling book, Chef MD's Big Book of Culinary Medicine, defines it as a new evidence-based field in medicine that blends the art of food and cooking with the science of medicine. Dr. LaPuma is both a chef and an MD. Cool! And when I asked him what kind of future work can I do with this specialty, his reply struck me. The increasing rate of obesity and diabetes in the Filipino population did seem to demand a new way of cooking our traditional Filipino dishes to make them lower in calories with lower glycemic load and, yes, healthier. My first hands-on kitchen experience was at the kitchen laboratory at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, where they teach their medical students the art and science of culinary medicine. Over 55 medical schools, residency programs, and nursing schools adopted the Health Meets Food culinary medicine curriculum. And here's an example of how the curriculum is taught.
We'll be doing 3 different recipes. The first section is the avocado mousse. We are starting with dessert.
It's not an ordinary cooking class. It's culinary medicine.
So if you're right in front of that cutting board, I want you to go ahead and pick up that knife.
A required course designed for first and second year medical students at the University of Maryland School of Medicine.
So when you're blending, it gets really immersed in.
One of the first medical schools in the country to offer a nutrition and cooking course as part of the core curriculum.
This is all about practical nutrition, education, behaviors, both for the patients and for the students themselves. We're not just looking to help support the health of future patients, but equally as much to support the wellness of our students.
This is a brand new program. We're excited to be a part of it. What we're providing right now is a couple of different things. Our business solutions, which we have 2 corporate chefs on staff, which will help with the curriculum as well as determining products that we're going to provide at no charge for the program.
It feels so good to see this. You know, we started the University of Maryland Center for Integrated Medicine in the School of Medicine back in 1991. It was the first in the country, and to see how far that it's come, that we can actually have in the required curriculum some culinary health and medicine as part of what the students get exposed to. You know, who knows what's next.
Before going into the kitchen, the medical students receive in-depth nutrition instruction with data from the latest studies and learn about popular diets that their patients will surely ask about.
There's no one right way. This provides patients and our students the latitude to understand food a little bit more than just going what a diet book says.
Culinary medicine is indicative of how the School of Medicine is changing the core curriculum to provide more active learning and keep pace with changing patient needs. And the students are eating it up.
I think being a doctor involves a lot of not just clinical knowledge, but also life knowledge that you might need to pass on to your patients. And for some of these patients, they may not know how to cook or what they can use and what's affordable for them. And by us learning, we can also share this knowledge with our patients and hopefully make it better for them as well.
Culinary medicine also fits in with the curriculum's new emphasis on student wellness.
And learning how to cook well and easy, simple recipes is a great skill to learn as well for ourselves. So it's win-win.
For the University of Maryland School of Medicine, I'm Larry Roberts.
Cheers. Cheers.
When the pandemic hit, the hands-on kitchen experience transitioned to virtual cooking classes. The cooking continued in the comfort of everyone's kitchen. What a blessing! Stuck with 4 mouths to feed 3 times a day, culinary medicine helped us thrive. When my husband and daughter declared they wanted to be vegetarians, I was initially concerned, but a module about proteins and vegetarianism put my mind at ease. Through culinary medicine, I learned about the Mediterranean diet and why it was the best diet that provides the foundation for all the other diets. In preparing food, I learned to use the Mediterranean scoring system. And finally, I discovered why my triglycerides and LDL were high. Too much saturated fat and refined carbohydrate were the culprits. A few shifts in my eating pattern solved my problem. And when my blood levels normalized, my blood pressure and blood sugar followed. I have prevented the pre-disease states from becoming disease states. So what's the Mediterranean diet scoring system, and how did I use it to achieve my health goals? Point 1. Eat 2 to 3 cups of vegetables per day, especially dark and leafy ones. I used to eat only 1 cup at most and during dinner, so I snacked on pickled cucumbers, carrots, and sweet bell peppers. I added spinach to my breakfast omelette and put tomatoes and cucumbers in my lunch sandwich. The fiber helped with satiety and regular morning business, if you know what I mean. Point 2. Eat 2 cups of legumes per week, or about 1/4 cup of legumes a day. Easy peasy, I snacked on boiled peanuts, put sweet peas in my fried rice, and pureed chickpeas as a hummus dip for my veggie snacks. Mongo and lentil were great for soup. Red and black beans did well for desserts. I just made sure not to go over 25 grams of added sugar a day with my family history and predisposition for diabetes. Point 3. Eat at least 1 to 1.5 cups of fruits per day. I traded my sweet desserts for berries, apples, and other citrus fruits, and instead of ice cream, I used frozen blueberries with soy milk. For a nice summer chiller, I froze watermelons and cantaloupes. Eating 1/4 cups of nuts a day was easy. I sprinkled slivered almonds to my desserts and salads, and snacked on walnuts tossed in unsweetened cocoa, vanilla, and a drizzle of honey. I learned how to make cashew milk and used cashew to make dressings. But I had to watch out that I don't get overboard with mindless snacking, because 1 gram of fat gives 9 calories, compared to 4 calories from each gram of protein or carbohydrates. Point 4. Eat 1.5 cups of whole grain per day. I scored 0 points in the past by eating 3 cups of white rice per day. Switching to a soft variety of brown rice helped me lower my intake because of the fiber. I learned to use quinoa and amaranth. These 2 plant-based whole grains provide the complete essential amino acids which vegetarians need. Another way to ensure we have the essential amino acids in our diet is to eat complementary proteins like grains such as brown rice and legumes such as mongo. Decreasing salt in the dishes also helped in lowering my carb consumption. Point 5. 2 servings of 4-ounce fish a week. But because some deep-sea fish like tuna and salmon, although high in omega-3, may also contain mercury, I limit intake for those. A 4-ounce fish is about the size of the palm of your hand. Point 6. Use good fats, such as the polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats found in extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil. Of course, these were more expensive than the palm and vegetable oil that I used in the past, but I'd rather eat my medicine than end up taking statins at the end of the day. By reading food labels, I found the source of my high LDL levels, the saturated fat in the butter I use for baking, and the not-so-lean ground beef and meat products. I learned to eat sourdough bread dipped in extra virgin olive oil and balsamic vinegar seasoned with oregano and rosemary. Eat less than 1 cup of dairy per day, and preferably the fermented, low-fat, and sweetened and aged variety. Another oops! I thought my yogurt was good, but the added sugar was more than the recommended amount, so now I only buy the Greek unsweetened variety. I also realized that the cheese on my pizza is often high in saturated fat. This meant shifting from serving pizza as staple food for dinner into special occasions or emergencies only. Making our pizza using whole wheat flour tortilla, slathered with homemade minced garlic and extra virgin olive oil, and topped with heirloom tomatoes and mushroom, basil, and some feta cheese was another option. Point 8. Although the Mediterranean diet recommends meat, it was of the lean variety and only about 3 to 4 ounces a day. Ground beef should be at least 90% lean, or the one that you find on the label as 90/10. I used to buy the 80/20 that was always on sale. I loved grilled barbecues and ate more than the recommended serving. And the briskets that I cook tend to be fatty too. No wonder my LDL would sometimes shoot up. My lipid profile normalized when I became more vegetarian, the flexitarian type who eats occasional bite-sized pieces of meat. Even my muscle pains subsided. Apparently, red meat, especially the grilled ones, tends to be inflammatory, just like sugar. Point 9. The Mediterranean diet recommends drinking red wine, 1 serving a day for women, about 100 ml, and 2 servings for men, about 200 ml. This is the serving size that provides a narrow window of benefit. You lose the health benefits without the wine, or going more than the recommended serving. Drinking red wine with my dinner managed to curb my appetite for late-night snacking. One patient switched from drinking soda to drinking red wine and adopted the Mediterranean diet and lost weight, and she regained her health. Point 10. Although not part of the 9-point Mediterranean diet scoring system, I decided to add one more thing to my list: water. Often I forget to drink the recommended amount of 2.7 to 3 liters a day, and on days that I drank enough water, I felt much better. Does dehydration contribute to my muscle and joint pains? After all, water accounts for about 60% of our body weight, lubricates the joints, and makes the muscles supple. Maybe my muscles are as dry as beef jerkies. How will my kidneys flush out the toxins from my body if my blood is flowing sluggishly? Water is an essential element of health that we often overlook. One module in culinary medicine tackles mindfulness. Whenever we want to eat, it's not always because we are hungry. Sometimes I'm just bored or stressed or sleepy, and when I crave salty snacks, it's just because I'm thirsty. Learning how to interpret true hunger from false hunger made me respond to my body's needs better. Mindful awareness was the key. Knowing my hunger level through the hunger fullness scale helped me become more sensitive to my body's needs. As long as I eat within the scale of 3 to 7, I avoid the extremes of hunger and the consequence of binge eating. I learned many tools of the trade to assess health. It's not just the BMI that tells me whether we have a problem with pre-obesity or you're overweight and obesity, but there are other numbers we can use, like measuring our waist circumference. If it's more than 35 inches for a female and 40 inches for a male, then the risk for cardiovascular diseases increases. The waist to hip ratio is also a good risk indicator. Women should maintain a ratio of 0.8 or less, and men maintain a ratio of 0.9 or less. My food journey did not finish when I passed the culinary medicine certification exam. There's so much more to learn, and the world of food science and art continues to evolve. How I wish it's as simple as calorie in minus calorie out equals calorie gain or loss. Yes, that equation bears some truth in it, but some factors go into the equation, such as your resting metabolic rate, which accounts for about 60 to 70% of energy expenditure and is affected by hormones, genes, amount of muscle, and exercise. Thermic effect of a meal, that accounts for about 8 to 10% of our energy expenditure and is affected by the type of food we eat and how we process it. The thermic effect of activity, affected by our state of activity and inactivity, and our routines and habits also add to that equation. I have encountered tons of diets that cater to different people of different sizes and ages. Half of what people claim to be true today may probably be debunked in the next few years. And it's not because the body changes, but because we gain a deeper understanding of the body. It's like discovering the mystery of the Creator through His creation. But so far, the Mediterranean diet, or what I think is the Lord's diet, seems to stand the test of time. For me, it took decades of trial and error, of being blindsided by blind spots, to gain this more profound appreciation of food as medicine. Healthcare workers tend to downplay beginning signs and symptoms of diseases, so that what is preventable becomes incurable. But it's never too late. Recent scientific evidence has shown the plasticity and resilience of the body. For as long as we adhere to sound science and listen to the wisdom echoed by people who have gone before us, we can still tap on the wonders and miracles of the human body. The concept of culinary medicine is as old as time. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet wrote, "Their fruit shall serve for food, and their leaves for medicine." A helpful piece of advice attributed to Hippocrates, the father of medicine, Reads true today. Let thy food be thy medicine. Saint Hildegard von Bingen, or I would say Dr. Bingen, a German mystic canonized in 2012 and declared a doctor of the church, once wrote, "Whenever the body of the person eats or drinks without discretion, or does something else of this kind, the forces of the soul is injured, because everything is to be done with measure, since man cannot always dwell in heaven." She is known for her holistic approach to healing, advocating moderation in everything and using plants as medicine. Clearly, Hildegard is the doctor of the kitchen. According to Thomas Edison, the doctor of the future will give no medication, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. Are we living in that future? Interestingly, the origin of the word culinary is culina, which in Latin means the kitchen, whereas medicine also comes directly from the Latin word medicina, or the healing art, or the art of healing. Early this year, my autoimmune panel tested negative. Did I find healing in my kitchen? You tell me. From my food journey, are you able to write your food RX? Can you assess your med diet score and identify where you can improve? Increasing your score by 2 points can lower your risks for overall mortality from chronic diseases by 25%. Are you ready for that change?
And if you are, I invite you to join the Culinary Medicine Facebook group and email me at cucinarx@gmail.com to receive your copy of the Mediterranean Diet Scoring Sheet, as well as the link to the 40-day challenge to a healthier you, with the subject Count Me In. Lastly, be your own advocate. Thank you for your time and attention.